When we're talking about social stratification, we can think about that in a couple of different ways. One of the ways is by class. Okay, and so how people are stratified or broken into categories will vary depending on society. One way is class, and the other way is caste. So, class is a ranked group characterized by achieved status and considerable social mobility. So, what do we mean by that? Okay, achieved status is the status you work toward or that you reach in your life. It's not given to you at birth, but it's something that you work through into as you move through your life. And so class is characterized by this achieved status. Also, there's considerable social mobility, which is the ability to move between classes. So you can be born into the lower class, and theoretically, through hard work, you can move up into a middle class or upper class. Okay, that also means you can move down through the classes from upper class to lower class, based on socioeconomic status usually. Okay, so this can sometimes be referred to as the accident of birth. Okay, but it does have a lot of consequence on education, occupation, where you live, how you live, health, and things like that. So where you're born into lower, upper class will greatly affect these different categories or these different aspects of your life. Okay. And so we tend to think about this now as luck. It's more luck than anything. And with hard work, you can fight back against your poor luck if you were born into lower class, for example. But in earlier times, we often thought about lower socioeconomic status as biological inferiority. Okay, the same way we largely used to think about race being associated with biological inferiority or lesser intelligence. And so it was historically wealth and the ability to gather wealth was naturalized very similarly to how we naturalize race. This doesn't seem to be the case as much anymore. We're starting to recognize more of a luck factor, and that cultural factors based on your class have a greater influence on what you can achieve or what you have access to in your life. This isn't to say you are completely limited by your class. Obviously, as you can see in the definition there's considerable ability to move between the classes. And so we don't want to think about class as being restrictive. Class allows you, or you have the ability to move between classes, but the class that you're born in does put some constraints on that ability. It's much easier to move from middle class to upper class than it is from lower class to upper class, or even lower class to middle class, just because there's a lot of pressure on you based on the class you're in, and it can make it more difficult because of these other social factors that are related to class. Caste, on the other hand, this is a very rigid form of stratification, and this is characterized by ascribed status, where there's not a lot of social mobility. Okay, so ascribed status is the status you're born with. Okay, so in a class system, you can move around. In a caste system, you can't. So if you're born into the lowest caste, then you're kind of stuck there. You can't marry out, you can't work hard and work your way out, because it's based on ascribed status, something you are the moment you're born, not something that you become as you age or as you collect wealth, things like that. Okay, and so just like how Americans see race, something that is culturally constructed, people in India or other countries that have caste systems, or other cultures with caste systems, they can see the caste. They can look at someone and know if they're in a lower caste. Okay, we can also do this in the U.S. with class. So you can tend to look at someone, and based on their social presentation, you can begin to ascribe them or place them in a class